I'm joined by IDF Reserve General Nitzan Noriel, a former director of the Prime Minister's Counterterrorism Bureau, whose career in uniform put him in critical command positions at particularly sensitive times along all of Israel's warfighting fronts. Today, he continues to influence counterterror policies through his work at Israel's International Institute for Counterterrorism in Herzliya. And Nitzan, so nice to have you here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Let's start with the really bad news. UN came out with a report this week that ISIS, despite being physically vanquished in Iraq and in most parts of Syria, can still lay claim to some 30,000 members, with several thousand more fighters either active or in sleeper cells around the world. The report also concluded that al-Qaeda continues, despite decades of fighting them, continues to represent a significant threat. And reading between the lines, I couldn't help thinking of that arcade game, you know, whack-a-mole, that the more you slam them, the more they keep popping up.
I have good news and bad news. I'll start with the bad news.
Please.
Terrorism is going to stay with us forever. Terrorism, it's not longer a unique phenomenon. It is something that exists in most societies, and I don't see any mechanism that can take it out of the rules of our life. This is the bad message. The good message is that we are strong enough to deal with it. Not only us, the State of Israel, but generally speaking, most of the societies, if they just take the right actions, if they just increase the cooperation between agencies, they can deal with those phenomena of terrorism.
But so many years since 9/11, and all of the cooperation within the government agencies in various countries, as well as international. I mean, they're trying to learn the lessons. And what else needs to be done, assuming, of course, that this war is still worth fighting?
Yes, the war is still on. Those who declare that we won all those wars, it was too soon.
Right. Mission accomplished.
No, not yet. Maybe a specific place in a specific timing, but generally speaking, as I said, the worst is ahead of us. If I need to judge the achievements of the terrorism in the last 10 years, you will see that they didn't achieve much. It's most of the same. And I'm concerned from the next stage of using non-conventional terrorism, non-conventional capabilities, and when they need to take major actions in order to achieve major achievements, that will challenge us in the next future.
Well, let's talk about that. You're referring to dirty bombs, aren't you?
I refer to all those capabilities that create two things at the same time: panics and casualties. Think of any metro, think of any underground system, that only by launching something that people believe that this is a chemical, you will get mass panic event which create many casualties. And
which we've known in the past in the metro in Japan.
Yeah,
and
of course. Again, it's not new, but we do not really prepare for those type of scenarios.
Now, these are not words of warning coming from some ivory tower academic. You still have your sources all around the world and a firm finger on what's happening here in Israel. So what kind of proliferation or what kind of, which countries may be leaking technology, that non-conventional technology, to the terrorist organizations?
Again, first and foremost, most of the knowledge exists on the web. It is not longer a case which you need sources or other connections to get the know-how or the material.
Okay, but the material you can't buy on eBay.
You can produce them homemade very easily. This is one of the challenges we have, because the website did very good things to the society, but at the same time create more challenges. This is one of them.
So other than combating, coordinating, sharing information, and actually combating terrorism, will this generational war that the West has been fighting ever end if we don't address the root causes that motivates these terrorists?
You know, there are too many research from the academic world trying to assess or guess what are the root sources for terrorism. And sometimes they're saying that poverty, sometimes they're speaking about education. It's probably mixed of many, many reasons. We just finished a research of many lonely wolf in Israel.
Lone wolf terror, yes.
From the last year or something. And what amazed me on this, Richards, because we could speak with the people in jail and interrogate them and interview them, that almost 70% of those people,
right,
they do have mental problem.
And they're manipulated by the organizations themselves.
Right.
Yes.
So the sources or the motivation to create those terror events are very wide.
So you have to cure unemployment and spousal abuse and yeah.
And in the second side of the same coin, I'm asking myself, do we have all the tools we need in the toolbox in order to deal with terrorism?
Well, let's talk about that. You're on record as wanting more non-lethal or less than lethal means. I mean, there's certainly it could have been helpful for Israel in these many months down at the Gaza border.
No doubt.
And then the nightmare scenario of hundreds of thousands of men, women, and children unarmed marching on Jerusalem. Why is the Israeli defense establishment dragging its feet on such things?
It's a sensitive issue because human rights, because of all the experiments you need to do on human being, which create many low-issue judge that you need to measure before using them with people. Having said that, let's play a game, a short game. Let's assume that I have a magic material that I can spread it all over, and in the area which I spread it, people can go to sleep for a week.
Oh, there's all kind of high-powered microwave that makes them
if we have those type of tools,
right,
you create a huge deterrence against terrorism, and you can save a lot of human life and a lot of time by solving problems.
And bolster the country's legitimacy as it combats the terror.
Let's think that we could send the city of Baghdad to sleep for a week in 2002. And instead of launching a war and lost too many people, spend so much money, send the city of Baghdad to sleep, capture Saddam Hussein, and the war is over.
We talked about lone wolf terror. I think that you're a lone voice here for these technologies that are not profitable on in the global defense market.
As I said, it's very problematic from all those legal issues, but we need to bridge those gaps and find solutions.
Nitzan, before we go, what are you hearing about this long-term truce between Israel and Gaza, and what do you say to those in the Israeli government who say that this will just sap deterrence and reward terrorism?
We need to ask ourselves what do we want to achieve. And if you ask what is the Israeli policy in the long term, we are looking for quiet borders and good neighbors. And I believe that establishing a long-range ceasefire is very good for us, and therefore we need to go for it.
So let's stay tuned to hear results of that long-term truce. And you do not believe that it rewards terrorism.